Hey, what's going on, guys? I just wanted to make a quick video today on the importance of communication. And I know that this is something that has been overused, it's trite, it is a hackneyed saying, but communication really is everything. And especially in business, it's the one thing that will make work feel like hell. And it is the one thing that will make work feel effortless. So there's just a few important points that I want to go over about it. I have been personally working on my ability to communicate. And when I say communicate, I don't just mean being able to elucidate my thoughts better. I don't mean being able to say what I'm actually thinking more precisely. It's more so just getting a thought across from one point to another point, and getting an intention across from one point to another point. And it's really that simple. It's kind of a nice little physics definition for you. But, you know, this covers not just business, but, you know, friendships, marriages, familial relationships, and even in business and in the world around you. But, you know, now when I say communication is everything, a lot of people tend to go, yeah, I know. But, and the problem for me for like the longest time was I didn't believe that, because I was, you know, growing up, I had kind of a big mouth. I would run my mouth a lot, and I actually got into a lot of trouble because I was always running my mouth. And so for me, it wasn't that communication is everything. For me, communication is what gets you in trouble. And so I thought, well, you know, the less you communicate, probably the better off you'll be. And we've all grown up with sayings like, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. Right? There's all these sayings we're brought up with that teach us it's probably better to just not communicate. And that's just not true. And hopefully after this video, that'll dispel that myth for you. And I hope this helps. But, you know, you have to get past this idea that you're going to get yourself into trouble by communicating. And the actual truth of it is, if you get yourself in trouble communicating, the only way to get out of trouble is to communicate more. It's not to remove yourself, it's to actually communicate more. And I can say from my own life that I've, especially in business, when, for example, I would have like a business idea I would want to like do something in business, and I would, you know, message my business partner and I would say, hey, I have this idea, we should do this and this and this, and, you know, then we'll be able to scale a little bit better. And, you know, I'm thinking from my end that it's a great idea. Now, whenever you're communicating to whomever you're communicating to, you have to consider the beingness of the other person. What does that mean? That sounds super weird, esoteric, but really what it comes down to is you have to, for lack of a better phrase, not just get into the mind of the other person, you have to get into the emotional state of the other person. Where are they at? How do they think? Are they more conservative on this topic? Are they more liberal on this topic? You know, you have to really assume the beingness of the individual you're trying to communicate with. And this is an art form. It takes a lot of practice, but communicating in a way that the other person can have it. And what I mean by that is communicating in a way that doesn't invalidate them or evaluate for them is super important. And getting your idea across, getting your intention across, getting the thought across with as little degradation of information as possible, right? So that's the one thing that really turned everything around for me, because I felt like I could not communicate properly my ideas to my business partners and people around me. I'm like, why can't I influence people the way I want to influence them? I have all these great ideas. I just need to get them to see that it's a good idea, right? And the other thing that I noticed was that just because you have a good idea, that doesn't mean, and you want to share this idea with somebody, let's say, that doesn't mean that the idea needs to come from you. And this is such an important thing to realize. Like, if you have this great idea to do some new thing in your business, what I ended up doing in order to get my idea across, or get the thought across, is I would oftentimes send my business partner a video of somebody talking about a similar idea, and I would send them that video and say, hey, watch this video. Watch it at this part. Like, he says something really interesting, let's say. Like, I had this idea, I wanted to build this membership and, subscription model for this business, and instead of doing product launches where you're constantly doing this in your stats, and I had tried to do the subscription model, and then finally, I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally I realized, man, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm pushing, I'm using force, and it feels like I'm using so much effort. It feels like communicating is effort right now. Well, that's because whenever you use a lot of effort and you communicate with a lot of force, you are going to get an equal amount of force pushed back at you from the other person. Nobody likes forceful communication. And in fact, when you start doing that, people naturally want to resist somebody that is coming on too strong. You're probably thinking of a time somebody tried to hard close you like that before, and it sucks. It's not a fun experience. So whenever you have this great idea that you think is good, you're using a lot of effort to communicate it, just be ready, because you're gonna be met probably with a lot of resistance to it. And so I started doing a little bit of mental jujitsu, where if I would have this great idea, I would start sending the people that I wanted to influence about this idea, I would start sending them videos of other people talking about a similar idea. Or it could have been like almost the exact same idea and applied to our business. And I was like, hey, look at this video. Really cool piece of information. I think you'll really like it. Blew my mind. So I would start doing that, and I realized that, if I want to influence people, the idea doesn't always have to come from me. And as long as the idea gets communicated, that is the important thing, and I'm able to influence them that way, I don't care if the idea comes from me or not. If I know it's a good idea, if I know if it's good for the business, I know it's going to be good for them, I know it's going to be good for everybody involved. What matters is getting the idea communicated, not who the idea is from and who thought of it first. Because I was coming from a selfish point of view where I wanted the credit. And when you start approaching ideas and communication, and this is all about communication. Remember, communication is just being able to send an idea or information from one point to another point without interruption, right? So that was something that kind of blew my mind when I realized it worked. And then suddenly I realized that I could start communicating a lot easier. And suddenly my business relationships became a lot easier as well, because I wouldn't make people wrong. I wouldn't invalidate them or whatever, And oftentimes, if the idea doesn't come from you, if it comes from somebody who is a lot more successful than you in business and you share it with a friend, they're more likely to listen to an authority figure rather than, you, the business partner that they've known for a few years, and, maybe you have similar stats to them in business. It's like, if it's coming from a real authority figure, they will listen. So that's pretty much it. There's some other points on communication that I want to go over, but I will save it for another video. I just want to keep this one kind of short. Just wanted to communicate some of the cool things that I'm learning about myself in business and communicating, and why sometimes business feels like effort and it doesn't need to. If I do know this one thing that is true, and listen to me, I know it's true. If business and communicating with people in your business is feeling like effort, it is because you are doing something to cause resistance in your communication with them. And you have to be causative over that. You have to be the person who is able to say, hey, what can I change here? How can I control the dynamics of this communication, of this conversation? And it all starts with the question of how can I influence people more? Or how can I influence more people? And the answer to that is the same. Those two questions. And it's the quality of your communication, and it's simply looking at it from a point of view of, how can I get the idea across? How can I get the thought from my mind and literally inject it into the other person's mind? And sometimes you have to do a little bit of mental jujitsu to make that happen. It will not come about from brute forcing the idea into somebody else's head and saying, you must watch this, and I'm gonna, this is my idea, I deserve the credit for it. I think we should do it this way because I'm the one who thought of it, and I'm gonna get all the credit, and look at me, look how great I am. It's not gonna come from a place like that. The best business ideas that you will have will most likely come in an effortless way. So that's about all I wanted to share on communication. Hope you guys enjoyed it. That's all I got. Bye.